Angela, Sylvaine, welcome back to the Rocky Mountain Writer Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me again. My pleasure.
Yeah, last time we had you on, we were kind of hearing early drum beats about the release of Frostbite coming up later this month in October, and all of a sudden here we are.
Yes, it's coming right up. It seemed so far away, and now it's next week. So it's funny how that works.
How
But
are
very
you feeling?
excited.
How are you feeling? Yeah, I was just about to ask you, how are you feeling?
I'm excited. Excited, nervous as you get. You want your launch to go well and your release to go well. But I feel like we've all done everything, myself and the publisher have kind of done everything we can to give it the best boost we can. So now we just wait and see how it does. Very excited.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about in a little bit of detail today was just from where I sit, just how much fun I think you've had in the last, I'd say even 6 months, 7 months, just getting ready. And anybody who follows you online can see that kind of, I would almost call it joy that you've put into this work for a book that's going to scare a lot of us. That may be an odd combination, but but before we get to some of the preparation marketing you've done to help get ready for the launch, for those who don't know, why don't you just help set the scene about what Frostbite is all about?
Sure. So Frostbite is a 90s sci-fi horror comedy. So lots of genres all mashed into one. And it's about a small town in North Dakota that gets hit by a meteor, which infects the hibernating prairie dogs with alien worms. And the town essentially is quarantined. And 19-year-old Raylene and her best friend Nate set about to basically save their town while also dealing with their own personal issues. Raylene's mother is suffering from dementia. Um, and some other things are going on. And they're also fighting a doomsday cult who thinks this meteor is kind of a sign of the coming apocalypse. So they must balance all of that and try to save their town.
So you are not afraid of dealing with a number of ingredients at once.
Apparently not. Or maybe, some might say you just have too many ideas. Maybe pick one, but I don't believe in that.
Yeah,
Let's get
yeah,
everything in there.
yeah. So give us an idea how long it took to pull this story together. If I remember correctly, this is a story you'd been working on for a while.
Yeah, it actually started as a short story for a call. So, like many authors, sometimes I see calls out there for anthologies or collections or magazines, and the idea might appeal to me and inspire something. So, I started this story as a result of a call for on Earth science fiction. But as I was writing it, I could see clearly it was not a short story. So I expanded it to a novella and pitched it to Dark Matter Inc., who is the publisher. And my editor there, Rob, is actually the one who encouraged me to expand it to a novel. He said, I think there's actually even more potential here. Let's expand this to a novel, which I thought was great, and have been working on that part more recently. So all told, there's probably about a year's work worth in the book, on and off at those
Yeah.
different stages. Yeah.
Wow. Nice. And you agreed at every step. You told yourself the short story wasn't going to work, and you just plowed ahead and expanded it to a novella. And then were you very open? It sounds like you were to the idea of taking it even further.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
because I think I saw the potential in the story and the plot and the characters, and also I like them. I like
Yeah.
the town and I like the people. So I think sometimes when you write a story you like, it's kind of great if you get to spend more time with it. And it was kind of a joy to do that. So it was a privilege to have that opportunity for sure.
Did the novella and the full length novel have the same rough arc to it, or did the fact that it got lengthened change the way it ended?
It definitely changed. So I looked at a couple different ways to expand it. Like I could have just taken the novella and kind of used that as roughly act one, for example, and then sort of added on to it, but that didn't quite work. So more so what I did was chunk it out and place pieces within a larger outline. But ultimately, I had to make the story a lot bigger. So the original climax didn't really work with the novel. It had to be much larger in scale. So, some of the concepts remained, but I had to kind of increase the grandiosity of it and also just add more subplots. I added another perspective. So originally with the novella, it was only from Raylene's perspective, who's the main character. And I added some additional scenes in the novel that are from her best friend's perspective, Nate. So there were a lot of different ways that I kind of made it kind of grow in scale.
Yeah. And it felt satisfying along the way doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
yeah. How long is the final book?
I think it's like just over 80,000 words, something
Okay.
like
Yeah.
83,000
Yeah.
words. Yep.
Yeah. Nice. And is it geared YA or is it adult
Yeah,
fiction?
it's technically upper YA, but the character's 19, and it's one of those interesting genres where I don't think the industry really has a good word for it. We've
Yeah.
tried to figure out what to call these books that aren't exactly coming of age stories with younger teens, but they're not necessarily full grown established adults either. So it's this middle ground. I refer to it as upper YA, but truly it's appropriate for any kind of audience. Myself as an adult reader, I really enjoy the kind of movies and entertainment that fit the same kind of style of this book. So your sort of creature feature horror comedies, things like Stranger Things, that kind of stuff isn't really restricted to young people. So I would
Right.
definitely say it's appropriate for young adults, whoever
Yeah.
likes the story.
Yeah. Well, Stranger Things definitely gives us an idea, especially if it's got humor, which I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about any writers or books in particular that you would want to see this alongside the shelf and say, these books, these writers fit with Frostbite?
I would say there's a recent writer I've really been just discovered. Her name is Caitlin Bayron, and she wrote a book called You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. And it's basically kind of takes slasher tropes and does some really interesting things with them. So in this case, it's about some teens working at a terror camp. So it's basically like a summer camp adults go to be scared, like live as if you're living in a horror movie and actors are chasing you around, and you're getting that experience, but it's kind of in a safe
Yeah.
environment. But then things kind of turn real and there's real danger. So the reason I mention that one is because I think it's one of those examples of something that reads like a movie, kind of. The visuals are great, the kind of things that it implants in your mind, and it really twists horror tropes in really fun ways. So that would be an example of a book I would love to see myself next to on the shelf.
That's great. Very good. Excellent. Well, I did want to talk to you about just how you've created a lot of energy out there, a lot of interest, I think, just by what you've been doing online. And I know you've been doing a lot of stuff in reality and the real world as well, getting some great blurbs. And I think you've been poking around at conferences and things like that as well, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how far you want to go back and tell us, when did you start? Did you sit down at some point and say, I'm going to develop a plan? Is this something you wrote down a plan, or did you just say, I'm going to follow every lead I can and sort of just have fun as I go? Or did you sit down and create a marketing plan basically?
I did. I'm definitely still learning. So I'm sure there are many authors out there who have a much more finalized plan than I do. But for me, I tried to take ideas from other people and seeing what other people were doing and really just be diligent about it. I'm actually a project manager in my day job. So
There
it
you go.
came naturally to me to really make a plan. So I kind of worked backward from the publication date and put some milestones out for myself of what I needed to do when to kind of build up name recognition and excitement and pre-orders and all that stuff. So, yep, it was definitely all part of the plan. Some of it worked better than others. So it's definitely constantly changing, as I'm sure you know. Those plans, some land and some fail, and you just keep trying new things. So,
Right. What has been the most successful or most fun to you before we get to the things that might not have worked so well?
I think really meeting other people in the industry is the most fun part. So whatever kind of marketing or fun kind of activities that I've done around the book, the most fun part is when you get to connect with other people. So for example, asking for blurbs was something I was very nervous about, to put myself out there and ask for these blurbs and be scared of rejection. But almost without exception, people said yes. The writing community is very supportive. And so now I feel like I have this support network of all these wonderful people who, are invested in my success and took the time to read my work and support me, which is really a wonderful feeling. And I think just demonstrates how great the community is. Kind of in that same vein, same sort of thing with like podcasts and things. So, I'm on here with you. We knew each other prior, so I
Yeah.
don't have as many nerves about reaching out to you.
Yeah.
But,
Let's hope not.
there was, even
So
though you're very
scary.
intimidating,
Yeah.
I knew you already, so it
Yeah.
wasn't quite as bad. But, I had a whole list of podcasts, for example, that are very specific to horror writing and horror fans, that I was reaching out to people I don't know. And by and large, again, they're just super supportive. And now I have not only opportunities to talk with them and potentially gain new readers, but I also have relationships with them, right? I'm making kind of friends in the industry. And that's always a great thing to have that support network. So I think that's been kind of the best part to come out of some of those hard marketing things you have to do that can be intimidating to start, but end up being really great in the long run.
Yeah. And reaching out for blurbs or anything, and is no different than reaching out for an agent or asking an editor to
That's right.
consider publishing your work. You know that you're facing potentially a lot of rejection, but it is so good when the blurbs come through. And obviously, you're not going to get the blurb if you don't ask.
That's right. The worst thing they
Yeah.
can say is no, right? And
Yeah.
it's funny how that works as your career, or at least for me, as my career as a writer has kind of advanced. You just get rejected in different waways.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
see success and there's a lot of great parts, but it's just something that comes with the territory, right? You have to keep that thick skin, going all the way through, because rejection is just part of it, whether it's the
Yep.
actual writing part or the marketing part, it just happens. So
Yeah. Who was the coolest writer that said yes to doing a blurb?
probably Gwendolyn Kais. She is one of my favorite authors. She wrote a book. Her most recent book is called Reluctant Immortals, which is about Jane Westerna I'm sorry, Lucy Westerna from Dracula and Bertha from Jane Eyre, both as immortals living in the 60s in San Francisco, and kind of reconfronting Dracula and everything. So it's just a very cool retro book. And she is extremely talented, and has been a huge supporter. Now
Yeah.
she's, gone above and beyond to support me, featured me in articles she's written.
Wow.
When she doesn't have to do that. She's very supportive and has just made it her part of who she is to help others of us who maybe are trying to get where she is. So that was probably one of my ones I was most tickled pink about when she said yes.
Yeah. And do you have the blurb handy?
I bet you I can get it. Let's see.
Is it already? It's on the book.
Yeah, it's in the book, and it says, so praise for Frostbite. Fast-paced, clever, and nostalgic, Frostbite single-handedly proves that Angela Sylvaine is a major rising star in the horror genre. This book's even got its own fabulous 90s playlist. Be still, my horror heart.
Wow.
Pretty good.
How to write a blurb right there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So, and that was just a cold query on your part to her. You did not know her.
I had met her at some previous writing conferences. So to your point, talking about conferences, it's kind of that networking thing. So it wasn't a total cold call.
Yeah.
I had met her and she was very nice, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't say we were like, friends at that point.
Right.
So yeah, I did have a little bit of an in, like she probably knew my name.
Yeah.
But that's the good part about going to writers' conferences, you can
Yep.
meet those people and then feel like you have an in when you want to take that next step.
Right. Right. Did your publisher help you get any blurbs?
Yeah, they got a few, but most of them I did myself because I kind of knew who I wanted to request blurbs from and had a plan going in and had already sort of made some of those personal connections. So it made more sense for me to ask because I knew them and it wouldn't, at least a little bit, and it wouldn't feel as much like a, ask out of the blue. So most of them I did get myself.
Yeah. Has Dark Matter helped you with marketing in general? Did they look over your plan or give you any
Yeah.
ideas or suggestions?
Yeah, we had a couple brainstorming calls just to kind of talk about our plans. And they had some stuff they did, like, for example, my editor there, Rob, is really great with visual marketing and things like that. So he did some little videos we could put online and graphics for arcs and things like that. So that was all really great and helpful. And then also he pretty early on, we decided we wanted to really approach a lot of people to offer arcs to try and get advance interest. And he has a very strong network of reviewers that he sent arcs to. But then I also had my own list of folks that I reached out to from Bookstagram or Book Talk to offer them arcs as well. So we kind of both approached it, but it was a real team effort. And the same thing with trying to get the book carried in bookstores. So the larger bookstores he handled, where it's more appropriate for that request to come directly from the publisher. And then the smaller bookstores are the ones that I approached personally.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have that backup behind you, the
Mhm.
publisher reaching out. What was the reader reaction on the arcs as those rolled in? How did that
Really
feel?
good. Yeah, the
Yeah.
reaction so far has been great. I think I'm up to about like almost 50 reviews on Goodreads, which is pretty good since the
Yeah.
book has not come out yet.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great buzz out
That's
from ARC readers. So yeah, it's been great. And I've loved hearing, we try not to look too much at your own reviews.
yeah.
We all know that advice, right? But I do let myself look at the 4 and 5 star ones once in a while, just to like see what people are saying. And probably one of the most fun parts from early readers has been the connections they're making with the book. So what they're comparing it to, like some are saying it's similar to the X-Files or Slither or The Faculty. They're kind of pulling in these pop culture movie references, which is really fun
Nice.
to see that that's kind of how they're envisioning it in their mind. And then also is handy for me because I can use those same comparisons from a marketing
Right.
perspective when I'm talking about
Eh,
it. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Um, as you are out there online and talking about it and seeing these things roll in, for me, and I think for a lot of writers, one of the hardest things to do is you've got this date coming up in 4, 5, 6 months. It's going to be your launch. You are kind of out there knowing you're promoting your book, but you can't only promote your book. You have to be, in fact, your online presence better go back way back as a writer, even before you got a publication deal and all that kind of stuff. So my question is basically, how do you balance your engagement? What other messages you're putting out there other than just buy my book, buy my book, buy my book?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't enjoy following people who only market to me. That's no fun. And really, it's just all about making genuine human connections with other people. So I just try to act online like I would at a party, right? So if
Yeah.
I'm in a room with a bunch of people, I'm going to try and like interact and find things in common with people and chit chat and talk with other people about stuff we both like, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, that's really what it comes down to is if people are posting about their cats. I have cats too. I'm going to get in on that conversation, right? So it's just finding stuff in common and treating people like you would if you met them in person and being genuine, I think. And
Yeah.
then it works a little better when you kind of sprinkle in your book stuff too. And in addition, I think it's important to support other people. Like I was saying, I've been the beneficiary of a lot of wonderful support from other writers who are maybe ahead of me on that writing road. And so I really, that works both ways, right? I make it a point to do the same thing. So I try to promote books I like, promote other people that I like and I've met online, and really try to help them as much as I can, write blurbs for other people if I'm asked, that kind of stuff. I think you got to kind of return the good vibes you're getting for sure.
Yeah. So the person who was asking for blurbs in a cold call fashion has now been asked to do blurbs, Angela?
I have, yeah. I have gotten
That's
a
great.
few requests myself,
That's great. That must
which is
feel
a
good.
different kind of pressure, you know?
Yeah,
Being
yeah,
on the
yeah,
other
yeah.
end, you're like, oh, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, you heard when I read that one, some people are really good at writing blurbs. It's hard
Yeah.
to distill down in a couple sentences the really great things
Yeah.
about a book. It's an art in itself. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, back to social media and online. What of the social media channels do you use and what have you found works the best for you?
well, I would say I'm basically on almost everything because it's a little bit of trial and error to see where your audience hangs out and kind of uh, where you can make the best connections with people. Up until maybe 6 months ago, I would say Twitter or X was kind of the place where I made the most friends and had the most engagement with people. But as most people know, that's kind of a trash fire. So I'm still on there, but
Yeah.
it's not
Yes,
as
you
good
are.
as it used to be. But I have great friends on there too, so I'll be there until the bitter end, probably.
And
Um,
by the way, I'm calling it Twitter until they change
I
the
know
URL,
X is the word. It's
So
still twitter.com. Like
yeah.
you can't
So
just change the name.
yeah.
But I'm also, I think Instagram is really big for me, especially with visual marketing and things like that. It's really
Yeah.
great. So I've been doing more with Instagram. Um, and then I'm kind of newly on TikTok. So many people are having great success on TikTok. And so I decided I needed to push myself out of my comfort zone and get onto TikTok. I've only been there for about a month, but it's going great. And I tell you what, any writers that are listening to the podcast, on Goodreads, you can see a graph of when you have reviews come in or when people add your book to their TBR list, that kind of thing. So if I look at my graph, you can clearly see when I joined TikTok. And since then, it's been consistently
Mhm.
high.
Yeah.
So I will say
Yeah.
it seems to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty new to TikTok as well, only about I think 5 months, 6 months, something like that. Um, I resisted. It is talk about being out of my comfort zone, etc. But wow, what a world! And you take all the negative stuff, but in the book world, it is lively. There is so much variety running across so many different recommendations, different ways people talk about books, things like that. It's a jungle, but it's a fun jungle. I think it's entertaining in a way too.
It
It's
is,
very, yeah,
book talkers. I mean, there's some real talent out there. There,
yeah,
some real marketing savvy.
yeah,
Plus you get tons of book recommendations,
yeah,
So
yeah, that's for sure. My video editing skills need a lot of work, especially when it comes to managing those tiny little buttons on there that you get to play with when
yes, there is a learning curve for sure.
yeah, yeah. It's incredible the level of slick video editing that people put on there anyway.
I know. It's
Yeah,
amazing. I'm
yeah,
not there
yeah,
yet, but
yeah.
I'm holding my own
What
over there.
what about threads?
I am also on Threads. I'm on Threads and Blue Sky, which are
Blue
both
Sky?
kind of like, they might ultimately take over for Twitter,
Yeah,
is sort of what
right.
people are saying. So I'm on both of those,
Yeah,
and just kind of seeing,
yeah,
how it works out. But I think, truly what I've learned over time is that you really can't just depend on one form of social media, and they're gonna change over time. There are going to be trends and
right,
things that come and go.
right.
So, I try to just kind of come to terms with that and give things a shot, and curate it so it's a nice place to be,
Yep.
you know,
That's,
for myself. Like,
yeah,
so I don't feel
yeah,
it's like a chore going on
yeah,
because I get to see other people post about books. And so
yeah,
I try to control pretty closely who I follow and what I see so that it's just like a pleasant experience for me too.
yeah. That's great. Great approach. All right. So conferences, give us an idea of how did you decide where to go? And obviously, if we were all had endless budgets, we, us writers, we'd go to every conference under the sun, but you had to go through some sort of process of deciding where, I assume.
It
You're not
did, yeah.
independently rich, are you? You're not
No,
independently,
sadly, I
no.
am not
No.
independently. I'm not independently wealthy at this point.
Okay.
So, yes, I must make some hard choices. And early on, I went to writers' conferences like Colorado Gold here in Colorado and Pikes Peak Writers' Conference. And I think for me, that was a really great place to start because it's a conference about craft, about
Yeah.
learning to write. And you're also making great connections. Like, I still have so many good friends to this day that I met at those conferences. But now my focus has really shifted from learning the craft to more just connecting with other people I have things in common with and that are more likely to be my audience now. So my big conference now is StokerCon, which is a horror writers conference. And it's more like a con where it has panels and things, not so much classes. So
Right.
that's really nice. It gives me some opportunity to actually be on panels or moderate
Mhm.
panels, which is a lot of fun. So, kind of how I attend conferences and what I'm looking for has definitely shifted to that more of that kind of experience.
Yeah. So you went to StokerCon, which is that in the same place every year?
It rotates. So
Okay.
this year it was in Pittsburgh, and next year it's in San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you, I mean, how do you approach it mentally in terms of just the investment of time and money and then return on investment?
I mean, it is about having fun, and I know I will see friends there and I will get to connect with friends. However, it is also for me work, right?
Yeah.
So I treat it like going to a work conference where I also get to see my friends.
Yeah. That's a great,
So,
yeah.
so I tend, again, this is the project manager in me. I typically make, I look in advance at what sessions are going to be on the agenda to really plan where I want to go. I plan out who I want to meet. If there are folks that I haven't gotten a chance to meet before, that maybe I've only met online, or, it's a higher profile writer I'd like to have the opportunity to say hello to. I really map that out in advance to say, here's my list of people that I want to say hello to.
Yeah.
Um, and I also, this last time I had arcs of my book. So
Ah,
I
nice.
brought arcs of Frostbite to the conference, and I had a number of people I wanted to make sure got one.
Yeah. That's
And
smart.
then, another number that were just kind of open for whoever I might run into that might want one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely approach it strategically, but also try to have a good time.
Yeah. Sounds like you might have paid for an extra piece of luggage.
Yes, I did. I couldn't just do the carry on, unfortunately.
Yeah. 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 That's smart though. Smart. Yeah. Very good. So here we are. What's the actual date? October 10th.
Yes, release
So
date is
next,
October 10th.
yeah, next Tuesday, within a week. Are
Yeah.
you um are you happy with the way everything went in terms of getting this book ready to be officially released?
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. The book itself is gorgeous.
Yeah.
The publisher really went above and beyond to make sure we got a good cover artist. His name is Eric Hibeller, and he did great. The pitch was to make it kind of look like a Amblin Entertainment movie poster,
Let's
essentially.
hold it up. Let's grab that book again. Let's hold it up one more time as you talk about it. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's supposed to look like an Amblin Entertainment movie poster. So you kind of have a cast of characters there, and you get sort of a sense of what the book is about. It looks cold. We wanted it to look wintry. There's more on the back. So I
Yeah.
think the actual book itself turned out gorgeous. I'm very happy with it. And everything in the lead up to the book has been great. So yeah,
Yeah.
now it's just we wait, right? I
Yeah.
do have a
Yeah.
I do have a little launch party happening on Friday the 13th here in Fort Collins at Snowbank
Nope.
Brewing. So looking
Yeah.
forward to that. I'll get to like drink a beer and relax a little bit at that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's great. Well, how does it feel? Can you take yourself back before you had a publishing deal as you were starting out as a writer and just think about the fact that you dreamed of this at some point
yeah.
and here it is.
Yeah, it's surreal. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. But it's good sometimes, I think, to stop for a minute and give ourselves a little credit for how far we've come and how much we've learned, you know? Um, if I compared what I know now to what I knew when I first started trying to write, I mean, it's like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really great. I mean, there's
Yeah.
still plenty more I don't know, and hopefully
Yeah.
we'll continue to learn. But it's been a really fun journey and really satisfying.
Yeah. Well, before I ask for our typical wrap up book recommendation question, one last question is what is next?
So next I have a collection coming out in May, or yeah, May 1st of next year, May 1st, 2024, called The Dead Spot: Stories of Lost Girls. So that's a short story collection, and it is not horror comedy. It's just kind of sweet but sad. So just, warning, you won't
Okay.
laugh as much with that
Yeah.
one, but it's really exciting to put out my first collection. And then next year, I'll also be re-releasing a novella of mine that's out of print called Chopping Spree, and that's coming
Ah,
out in English and Spanish. So that's exciting. And then I've also already signed the contract for Frostbite 2. So that will be coming in 2025.
wow. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, that's terrific. Is it going to be called Frostbite too, or is that just the placeholder name?
Probably not. I'm
Yeah.
still kind of working out the details of what it's going to be. But
Ah,
yeah, it'll be in the same world with the same
yeah.
characters.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on that. Have you announced that?
Yeah, we haven't made
Okay.
like a big deal of it yet because we
Yeah.
don't have all the details or the title, So
Yeah.
it'll probably be a bit before we make a big splash with it. But yeah, it's not a secret.
Yeah. And the re-release of Chopping Spree, is that being done with Dark Matters or is that just being
It
done by you?
is.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
It's being done by Dark Matter, and it's going to be an expanded version with deleted scenes and a new cover.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And a playlist.
And a playlist. I love a
Yeah.
playlist.
Yeah.
Anyone
Okay.
who knows me knows this.
All right. All right. So let's one more thing then before we get to the book recommendation. Give us a few of the song titles on the Frostbite playlist.
Sure. So it's a 90s playlist, kind of a
Yeah.
90s alternative rock playlist. It is in the back of the book, and
Yeah.
also it's on Spotify. So if anybody
Yeah.
wants to look it up, you can download it on Spotify. But
Under what's your Spotify name? Do you know your
Angela
name?
Sylvaine. So it's under
Okay.
Angela Sylvaine, and the playlist name is Frostbite. And a couple songs on there are We Trying to Stay Alive by Wyclef Jean. As you can imagine, they're trying to stay alive. They're running from
Yeah.
the infested prairie dogs. There's also Virtual Insanity by Jamiroquai and Barbie Girl by Aqua. So lots of good
Yeah. Yeah.
90s songs.
That's great. Yeah, very good. Yeah, you're having fun. I can tell you are having fun. That's great. All
That's
right.
the good thing about
So
horror comedy.
Yeah.
then you can have fun
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we could talk all day. I feel that way with many, many of the guests on the Rocky Mountain Writer podcast. We could talk all day. I am positive you are such a blast, Angela. So, but as we wrap up, we always like to pay it forward a little bit. You've already mentioned some great book titles, but how about one more or a writer?
Sure, yeah. So, since I'm very into nostalgia horror, I thought I would make a nostalgia horror rec from like the 80s and 90s. So there's a new series of books out from Shortwave Publishing called Killer VHS that are inspired by this concept of they have to involve some kind of VHS tape. They can take place in modern times, but there has to be some sort of reference to a VHS tape, and it's horror. So the specific book rec is the first one in the series. It's called Melonhead Mayhem, and it's by a writer named Alex Ebenstein, and it's just a great time. It's a novella, it's a quick read, and it's perfect for fans of like B movie creature features.
Wow. Fantastic, Angela. Thank you so much. Good luck next week on October 10th. And everybody get out if they can to the Fort Collins event on the 13th. No coincidence, it's on Friday the 13th. I'm sure of that.
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah. And an early happy Halloween to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.